Artificial intelligence is rapidly evolving, and this technology is increasingly being used in all facets of society. And it carries with it many concerns, impacts, and even opportunities for Indigenous peoples the world over. Hi, I'm Kate Finn, and I'm the founder and director of the Tallgrass Institute, which is a founding member of the SIRGE Coalition, the Securing Indigenous Peoples' Rights in the Green Economy Coalition. I'm so honored to commemorate International Day of the World's Indigenous Peoples and also to celebrate the anniversary of the launch of the SIRGE Coalition. Artificial intelligence is rapidly evolving, and this technology is increasingly being used in all facets of society. And it carries with it many concerns, impacts, and even opportunities for Indigenous peoples the world over. At the Tallgrass Institute, we work to embed the rights and well-being of Indigenous peoples into business operations and to ensure that Indigenous peoples' free, prior, and informed consent is the cornerstone of all engagement and due diligence for risks to companies and risks to Indigenous peoples. In terms of AI, this means ensuring that the participation of Indigenous peoples is present in all of AI build, design, development, and governance, and also eliminating the negative impacts of AI to Indigenous peoples and to their lands and resources. This is a tall order. Self-determination in this context means two things: Indigenous peoples' data sovereignty and participation in the development of AI technologies. Of course, data is the foundation of AI technologies, and according to the UN, data sovereignty is Indigenous peoples' right to own, control, and govern their own data. But for Indigenous peoples, data encompasses traditional knowledge, connection to the land, spiritual and cultural practices, and of course, our languages. Much of this information is online, as many tribes and many Indigenous peoples seek to share their cultures with relatives who have moved away or have better access to that information online. However, since AI is trained on vast amounts of data, the risk is that this Indigenous information will be picked up and used in ways that are not transparent, nor is it used in a way that is in keeping with the context of the community and the purpose for which it was placed online. Further, there is a lot of information online about Indigenous peoples that does not accurately reflect who we are. It does not reflect who we are in the past, and it does not reflect who we are in modernity. Online data often misrepresents or excludes Indigenous peoples' voices, and there is a real risk that this information will get picked up and disseminated in AI data sets. So there is a very big risk that AI will perpetuate patterns of exploitation and appropriation, these patterns that Indigenous peoples have been fighting for years. So what we need to achieve self-determination in an AI era is greater transparency and accountability. This includes accountability and transparency in the ways that systems are designed, built, and also how companies are held accountable. And alignment to data sovereignty principles means ensuring that Indigenous peoples have access to information about how their data is being used. And it means ensuring that Indigenous peoples are resourced to participate in all phases of AI design, build, and governance. This is a very important question that we need to confront in real time. There are key considerations in the development, use, and impact of AI technologies on Indigenous peoples. And some of those are to design with data sovereignty in mind. There are data sovereignty principles that Indigenous peoples have espoused that can be worked into this design to ensure that AI does not reflect built-in biases, to ensure that Indigenous peoples are involved in AI build and accountability, and to create accountability and bring investors and others into this work. Development of AI is currently being led by major tech companies, and decisions are made by governments. Investors have a role in the private sector to hold companies accountable to ethical standards and to form ground rules that can guard against systemic risks. These types of guardrails, in addition to a lens that brings support for data sovereignty, is clearly needed urgently. AI is being used, and the world is awakening to its power as both a tool and as an economic asset. Now is the time to look at the patterns of use to carefully and quickly construct ethical guidelines, transparent design models, and accountability to data sovereignty principles.